afternoon to you. It's 4 o'clock in time for Sports4CLE. Thanks for joining us. Hope you're having a good afternoon. You had a good weekend. It was not a good weekend for the Cleveland Browns. A 41-17 loss. Another sloppy game on offense with 2 more turnovers, a blocked punt. The defense was good until it wasn't. Head coach Kevin Stefanski with his thoughts on the loss to the Ravens.
Obviously got beat and very disappointed in that result. We gave them 21 points via a blocked punt, a fumble recovery, and an interception. And it's just hard to win. It's hard to win, period, but it's hard to win when you do that. So we'll own it. We understand the challenges that you run into in an NFL season, and we'll just keep our head down and keep working. But with that, I'll take any questions.
Do you consider making a quarterback change after a game like this?
No.
How did you think that Joe did, given the circumstances?
Yeah, I don't think we did good enough. Mary Kay, I think the collective we as a team, we as an offense, we as a coaching staff, all of us didn't do a good enough job.
It looked like there was a lot of pressure in his face. Kevin, what did you see issue-wise up front?
Well, it's a good front. They have good rushers. They run good games. They have good blitzers. So there are a couple times we have to do a better job with the rules of our protections. But bottom line is, we didn't protect well enough.
Again, through 2 games, Browns offense has turned the ball over 4 times. They've also blocked a punt. No turnovers for the defense yet, which has been really good. Just haven't turned the ball over. Browns beat reporter Darryl Ryder, his takeaways from the loss to the Ravens.
They don't have a competitive quarterback on this roster, and when you asked me earlier if they should make the change, my response should have been, does it even matter at this point? Because they don't. They do not have a competitive quarterback on this roster right now that can help them win games consistently. That's the cold, hard math.
Darryl, was the defense good yesterday?
It was good until they got burned out. They started great, but again, this is what I'm telling you is going to happen to them this year. As long as the offense is inept and incapable of sustaining anything and putting points on the board, and that defense is going to have to keep going out there over and over and over again, this is what's going to happen. They're going to get worn down in the second half, and teams are going to pull away. That's just a reality, Ken. So, yes, they were good for a while until I think they got tired.
Could be. The other thing is chasing Lamar Jackson around and trying to chase him down. You're not going to win that fight too many times. And the Browns did a really good job limiting the running attack of the Ravens with Derrick Henry and Lamar Jackson. Jackson beat him with 4 touchdown passes, in part because guys not named Denzel Ward or Greg Newsome struggled in man coverage for the Browns defense. NFL Network's Rich Eisen, Overreaction Monday. Some interesting stats with the Browns defense against the Ravens offense.
Only 2 carries for Lamar Jackson. I have a stat on that regard. It's the lowest. It's just 2 fewest in a start for Jackson in 3 years. Derrick Henry, it's the fewest rush yards he's had as a Raven. The Ravens had the fewest rush yards in a game in 4 years. Only the second win in franchise history with 45 or fewer rush yards. So the Browns' rush defense got it done. But Lamar is just freaking Lamar Jackson. His
evolution as a passer is so impressive.
How about this one? 11th career game with 4 or more touchdown passes or no interceptions. That's the most by a quarterback before turning 30.
And that includes Patrick Mahomes of the Kansas City Chiefs. So, yeah, Lamar Jackson's 4 touchdown passes really beat him up. We'll talk plenty about the Browns coming up. Lance Reisland from the Plain Dealer, cleveland.com. Pete Smith from the Orange and Brown Report will join us in just a few minutes. Let's take a look at the Guardians going for the sweep over the White Sox. Slade Ciccone on the mound. 4th inning, and it's the White Sox getting on the board. Miguel Vargas, that one is trouble. Off the wall, it'll go as an RBI double. 1-0 White Sox with the lead. Bottom of the 4th, Guardians come right back. Bo Naylor. And that one beats the center fielder. It's headed to the wall. A 2-run double to give the Guardians a 2-1 lead. In the 5th, Chase Mydroth for the White Sox, and that one's going to clear the home run porch and left to tie the game up at 2. 7th inning, Bo Naylor, look at that. Over the progressive sign in right field, a solo home run to make it 3-2, and that is the final. The Guardians win it over the White Sox 3-2. They do, in fact, get the series sweep. So the Guardians are now just 2.5 games behind the Astros, who were in the third and final American League wildcard spot. Have a day off today, do the Guardians. They open up a 3-game series against the Central Division leading Detroit Tigers. It's Joey Cantillo scheduled to get the start for the Guardians, and Casey Mize will be the starter for the Tigers. We're going to take a quick timeout. Lance Reisland is up first. We're talking Browns on Sports4CLE. Stay with us. Browns are up first on Sports4CLE. Let's head right to the voicemail of Truth and Reason.
I'm just going to say it. Kevin Stefanski, he's not it. Joe Flacco, he's not it. Number 19, he's not it. Number 27, he's not it. Enough. Enough of this garbage football. Oh, my goodness. That's all I got to say. I'm so upset. Thanks, guys. Bye.
As always, appreciate all of the voicemails. Let's welcome in Lance Reisland from the Plain Dealer, cleveland.com. Lance, a lot of frustration with the offense, obviously.
Well, I'll say this, ever since last night, I've been on a number of things talking about the Browns, and the first thing I will say as a coach is I appreciate the expectations that people have, and I appreciate the frustration people have. Because that means they want to win. And that's okay with me because you're not winning and you're not putting out a great product right now. And the thing that I'm seeing right now from the Browns is their inability to play complementary football with all 3 phases. They're playing championship level defense right now, and the mistakes that are being made on defense are because the offense and the special teams. And I'm going to say this because as a coach, the one thing that's really hurting the Browns, and obviously the offense is easy to blame, but the special teams are really, really hurting the Browns. And when you don't have a good offense, that special teams has to be special, and they're anything but right now.
Yeah, what were your takeaways from the Ravens loss?
Well, I thought, once again, I'm going to start with a positive. I thought they ran the ball better, not great. I thought the tackles are really, really struggling in both pass protection and movement. I thought Joe Flacco made too many mistakes but I think some of those mistakes are coming because he's pressing. Defensively, you saw the lack of depth at safety. At corner after Ward and Emerson, they really picked on Mitchell, and he got beat a couple times. But he got beat a couple times with poor knowing where his help was, for example, and technique-wise. So you worry about that because they're going to face better second, third receivers. I think they'll always be able to take away that prime guy if Ward's healthy. But that's the defense, the front 7 is elite, and the guys behind him are not with depth. So, and then obviously too many drops, and I still think Njoku needs to be involved more. And I thought Judkins, once again, going back to a positive, I thought you saw some things out of Judkins that's going to really help this run game. So I also feel that the walls, the sun came up this morning. They got to go back to work, and they got to figure out it's week 2. It's a little bit overreaction by everyone. Obviously, the overreaction when you lose 8 games in a row, though, there's some merit to that. So go back to work and try to prove everybody wrong on what they're saying.
How concerned? You mentioned Njoku. I would add Jerry Jeudy into that. How concerned are you about the pass catchers? I mean, nothing kills a drive like what should be even a 6-yard gain that ends up incomplete.
Yeah, the drops are really, really an issue right now, and with some veteran guys. And I really think the 2 best guys on offense catching the ball right now are Njoku and Fant. And whatever you got to do in 13 personnel, 12 personnel, all those kind of things. But those are the guys. Not only can you are they catching the ball. But I really think Njoku can help these quarterbacks, whoever it is, Flacco, Gabriel, with his run after catch ability. Obviously, Fannon's a mismatch for corners and linebackers and safeties. But if you want to get some easy yards right now, the best way to do it in the Cleveland Browns offense is to find ways to make Njoku the check down. Because teams are playing too high because they can't run the ball against these 6-man fronts. So it's hard to run. It's really hard to pass. So if you're going to check it down, let's check it down to Njoku because he's the guy who can really get you some yards after catch. And you got to figure it out. You got to go back to work, and you got to say that right now they're struggling. And you can't buy into what everybody's saying. You got to go back to work, and they got to figure out how to catch the ball. More on the jugs machine, endless work before and after practice. Try to fix what's broken right now. And the pass catchers are just one part of a very struggling offense right now.
You mentioned Judkins. What did you see from him as a running back? I know it's limited, but there were some things that I thought, okay, I get their thought of him being the guy they build this offense, Kevin Stefanski's run game around.
Well, you saw he's good. He's very good in both schemes, right? The gap scheme and the zone scheme, and he's heavy. So when you're heavy and you have bursts like that, you fall forward, and he does a great job. He's got much more breakaway speed than I thought. And coming out of Ohio State, I was wrong on Judkins. I meet with Dan Labby. Dan Labby was very high on Judkins, and I thought Henderson was better. But I really think Judkins has a chance to be special because he's a big kid, and in this offense, they have to win on first down. And I've said that to you a bunch because it puts them in a pass run situation. If teams know the Browns have to pass, that's when things get ugly.
Well, and let's be honest, they've been getting killed on first down, at least offensively.
Yeah, and you see what it does defensively when you can win on first down. When the Browns win on even against these great quarterbacks, when you win on first down, you get to pin your ears back and get after the quarterback. And the Browns just don't have enough answers in the skill positions right now to be in true pass situations. They have to be able to marry the pass with the run to help those offensive linemen out. And right now, those offensive tackles, both sides, everybody involved is not playing very well. And their pass protection, their drive blocking, those guards, Posick, Batonio, Teller, they weren't great this week, but they were better. And they were better in the run game, and they're tough, and they'll continue to improve. I worry about those tackles right now because they are really not moving their feet and playing very poorly.
And in fairness, Jack Conklin didn't play, so that hopefully that corrects a little bit of it. The other thing, though, Lance, it's 2 turnovers in each game. You also had a blocked punt. That counts as a turnover so they got to take better care of the ball. You don't have explosions, so you can't overcome turnovers, and you're turning the ball over like crazy.
Well, one of the things I always said was you got to end every drive in a kick. I know I say that ad nauseum. That's my dad's philosophy, and it really, if you look at when you're struggling in offense, which I had some struggling offense, that means you got to protect that defense. And when they were down 10-0, that first drive for a field goal from the Ravens was 24 yards. The second drive for the Ravens was 24 yards. So the Browns defense gave up 48 yards and 10 points. And that just doesn't work when you get an elite guy down in the red zone. Lamar Jackson's too good with his feet and his arm to keep him from points in the red zone. So you had a block kick, and then you have an interception returned down to the 5 for points. And then you have a fumble recovery for points. There's 21 points. So now you're in the game just by protecting the football. So that means you have to, if you get in these 3rd and long situations, I know it's not fun, and I know it's not what the NFL is, but if you're truly trying to win, then you have to be very cautious and very vanilla and very boring on 3rd and long. Because if you do that and you punt the ball, with which you have an elite punter, you can maybe get a turnover or something like that, but you have to protect that defense and make that other team go 90 yards. You saw with 2 great offenses, 2 of the better offenses in the NFL, they had trouble going 80, 90 yards against this defense. But when you only have to go 30 yards, it's not as bad. And that's what the Browns, the special teams are absolutely killing them, and the offense is absolutely killing them. They have to protect that defense moving forward, even if that means going outside your norm on passing situations.
Yeah, so let me ask you this. The front 7 was really good again until they it got away from them late. At what point does Jim Schwartz not do as much man coverage? Because other than Ward, Greg Newsome's played well. But when you get to that 3rd guy, it's kind of like, oh, That didn't work.
Well, I think there's some certain things you can do. You can go man, but they're playing one high hat. So you can protect, if you want to stay with your identity, you can tell Ward and Newsome, you're in zero, which means there's going to be no help for you ever. Now that's dangerous, but you can say that, and then you're gonna double that third guy or the guy you're struggling with the free safety. And on that first touchdown, they brought him in motion. He ran a corner route, but he can't get beat outside when your help is inside with that free safety. So he got beat by alignment there. So he's got to know where his help is. The other thing you can do is you can play a little bit more zone, and you can play a one high hat zone, cover three, show man, maybe bail a little bit more. But Jim Schwartz is a guy that likes to stay with his identity. So I expect him to stay in man, but maybe help a little bit more on the guys who need help. Obviously, Mitchell's going to need some help. But instead of just saying, instead of beating your head in the ground saying you got to do it, maybe he can't do it, and you got to help him a little bit. And if that's the guy you're going to play, then you got to, as a coach, you got to say, you know what, I'm going to help him, and I'm going to tell Newsome and Ward you're on your own. And then if Newsome and Ward aren't in, then maybe you play zone, and you say, you know what, I'm going to go outside. But you can do all the things he likes to do with your front seven and play zone behind it. Now you're going to give up some things underneath, but you can do that, and that might be a route they had to go. He's played some zone in the past, so we'll see what happens. But yeah, there's got to be an adjustment. Press man on the third receiver with Mitchell. And Miles Harden isn't working right now.
And you're going to get a heavy dose of spreading the ball around from Green Bay. They don't have really a dominant guy. Their main guy is the tight end, Kraft. But they got a lot of guys that'll catch 2-3 balls a game, like their entire receiving core.
Well, yeah, he does. LaFleur does a great job. Actually, I started breaking down film on them last night. And, through the first two games, they scored 27 points in both games. And you said it best. They're the best. They have great balance. And what they do on offense is very similar to what the Browns did in 23 with the balance, with the run game, with Jacobs trying to create balance, power run game, take some shots over the top, create some matchups in empty personnel with big personnel with those two tight ends. So when the Browns are rolling, when Kevin Stefanski's very good on offense, like if you look back to 23 when Flacco was really rolling, this is what you're going to see a lot of with the Packers this week. They do a good job of spreading the ball out, balance on offense. And remember, balance isn't 50-50 run pass. Balance is doing what you need to do in certain situations because you've won on first down.
Lance Reisland from the Plain Dealer, cleveland.com, and I'm going to step aside, take a quick time out. We'll continue talking Browns, Sports for CLE. Be right back. Stay with us.
Come back to go forward. Back to learning new things. Back to pursuing your dreams. Tri-C has flexible learning options to fit your life. And every year, more than 1,000 local companies provide Tri-C students with real-world learning. The right education can boost your lifetime earning power by hundreds of thousands of dollars. Start now with a college education you can afford. Tri-C, where futures begin.
We continue talking Browns with Lance Reisland from the Plain Dealer and cleveland.com. Former NFL quarterback Chris Sims, what he saw from Joe Flacco and the Browns offense in the loss to the Ravens.
Cleveland's offense, not good enough. Joe Flacco made a horrible interception when the game was 13-3, and you went, hey, they're kind of hanging around. Let's see what he's going to do. But again, as I always say, for a guy who's played so much football like Joe Flacco, every game he'll do one or two things where you're just like, I can't believe he did that. That's like a rookie almost. And the moment in this game was he's scrambling to the right. He's getting close to the sidelines. He just throws a ball downfield into like double coverage. And Nate Wiggins gets it, returns it almost to the house. He gets to like the 5-yard line, right? Yep. And that kind of seemed to be the point. And from there on out where Baltimore took over the football game and really controlled it from there on out.
Lance, you and I have talked about it. I'm not a let's see what the rookie quarterbacks have guy. But there has to be a veteran. Right now, there are certain instances, key moments, where Joe Flacco's not playing like the veteran that you expect him to.
Well, my post game yesterday, I talked about those guys need to play when they're ready. However, the argument, and I agree with this, is a fair argument, that if he keeps playing bad in games and making those crucial mistakes, and I'll go as far to say, yesterday as I'm breaking down the film, with just under 5 minutes to go, it's 20-10. So they're in that ball game almost, pushing towards the end of the third quarter. And if you get into the fourth quarter, it's like making the playoffs. Once you get in, you roll the dice and you play. That's what it is making the fourth quarter in the NFL. If it's close in the fourth quarter, anybody can win. And that's where they were. And then that throw. And that throw was, it was bad. And I do a lot to defend the quarterbacks, and I tell people not to panic, but that was a really bad throw. However, the panic button can't be set yet. Now, you can demand better play, and you can demand, if you turn the ball over, and I know he's turned the ball over, you also don't want to set those young guys up for failure, because we've seen that before with young guys, and there's a reason maybe they weren't taken in the first round. Obviously, I just don't think the panic button comes against the Green Bay Packers and their very good defense. I think you have to play close to the best. I think you have to protect the football. And I'm going to say this over and over this week with everybody I talk to. They got to make sure if it's 3rd and 8, they run the ball. And people are like, that's that. And I understand it's boring, and I understand it's not winning football for some instances. But I think this defense can be so good if they can get some good secondary play that they can overcome, and think about the Steelers and the Ravens and things like that. That's my thought on how they win. They got to play close to the best on offense, and they got to be better on special teams.
Well, here, this will give you some numbers to back up what you're thinking. The Browns have 77 turnovers in their last 30 games, 2 1/3 per game. And their record in that span, 14-23. So you're not going to win games in the NFL when you don't win the turnover battle, or at least push it. Now, the offense has turned the ball over 4 times, and the defense hasn't gotten a takeaway yet.
Yeah, they're going to have to. So the defense is playing great, but the one thing that they haven't done, they didn't even do it in their 23 year when they're outstanding, which tells you how good they've been. They got to create some turnovers, because they're going to have to create short fields, just like the defense they're seeing when the Browns turned over. Short fields make an offense much better. Turnovers make an offense much better, especially a poor offense that can't do much right now, which they can't. If you can get some turnovers and have some short drives, like I said, the Ravens went 48 yards and got 10 points. They had to go 3 yards for, the 1 touchdown and the punt block and things like that. And, for me, the entire talk is about Joe Flacco. The special teams, for me, does not get a pass right here, because when you're struggling in offense, you got to win on special teams, because special teams is about alignment. Special team is about knowing who you have. Special teams about, think about it. They made all their kicks and they punted it well, and the special teams played terrible. So that's where they got to make their improvement. They got to create some turnovers, and they got to win special teams.
So we've talked about Joe Flacco. Browns playing a lot of young guys on offense. Flacco was asked post-game yesterday, is it a challenge to bounce back with so many young players?
I think you could probably look at it either way. When you have old guys, young guys. Listen, I think those young guys in that locker room, they have a good head on their shoulders, and they're excited about going out there and making a name for themselves and being a part of a good football team. I think they're eager to just get out there and play good football. So I don't think we got to worry about them. And I think we have enough veterans to kind of lead the way on that. Listen, it's hard when you start off the season, the way we have. There's a lot of tests that you face in this league, and it's very easy to just put your head down, tuck your tail between your legs and run off. And, I just don't see that in the guys in that locker room. So, and I honestly didn't see it today. We're fighting out there, and we're doing, we're trying. Are we doing things to our best ability? Are we playing as good as we can? We're not. But we got guys that are trying hard in there, and I have all the confidence in the world that we're going to continue to have those guys do that same thing.
So, Lance, what do you do to get more explosive plays? It's not like, there's not a lot of separation with Judy and Thrash and even Njoku. How do you manufacture explosive plays if you're Kevin Stefanski in this offense?
Well, you can't beat your head in the ground. You can't say, we're just going to make them. You can't just say, we're going to throw the ball deep. What you got to, I think, obviously it starts with the run game. And in this scheme, you got to have second medium, because second medium gets you the defense you want on the field. It gets you the coverage you want on the field, because then you get some man coverage. You get those safeties down in the box. You can take some shots over the top. But if they don't run the ball well, then they can't do that. And you can't say, we're just going to do it as an offense, because That's not how offensive football works. So they might not be able to get any if they don't run the game, don't run the ball in the game. Now I like what Joe Flacco said there. You can't bail. You can't jump. I tell everybody, this is not the 1-31 Browns where there's no talent. They have talent. They have talent on the defensive side of the ball, and they also have talent on the offensive side of the ball. Now people are going to say, so what? They're 0-2, and I agree. You are what your record says you are, and you got to go out and prove people wrong. But for me, when I've been on both ends where we weren't very good and we had talent, and we weren't very good when we didn't have talent. And I will tell you, when you have talent, you got to go in and figure out, because to me, they have enough talent to be in games, and they gave up 21 points because of their offense and special teams. So they got to correct that because they have a championship level defense. And I know everybody's gonna be very, very hard on me this week because I'm gonna tell everybody, don't jump off the train yet. It's okay. They're going to figure it out. I truly believe that. Now, obviously, he's been 2-time coach of the year, so his system works. Maybe he has to adjust his system a little bit too, because right now the struggle is real, and they got to figure out, like you said, how do you get manufactured plays? I think explosive plays come from checking it down to Njoku, let him run with it. And if that has to be the explosive play, it was in 23, maybe you try that. But you can't say you're just going to, create some vertical plays when you maybe don't have those guys. You have to figure out other ways. And maybe it's just getting the ball to Njoku in space or fanning in space and letting them beat linebackers and safeties.
The other, in my way of thinking, either you can't put the ball in harm's way and you can't turn the ball over, or you have to get the explosive play. So maybe the answer is, don't put the ball in harm's way until it's fourth quarter and it's a game-winning, game-tying drive kind of thing.
Yeah, I could not be any more in agreement with you. As an offensive coach for 20-plus years, when you don't have a ton of talent and your defense is very good, then how do you protect that defense? And one of the things I've heard, well, that's not how you win in the NFL. Well, there's a bunch of ways to win in the NFL. There's a bunch of ways to win football games. You look back to some of the championship level teams that the Ravens had and the quarterbacks they had during that time. And, you look at some of the teams that have won a Super Bowl with quarterbacks you win with, not because of. That's because they had great defenses. But those offenses didn't turn the ball over. And those special teams were special. And if you're going to be a team that relies on defense, then you have to protect the defense. And that is called not putting it in harm's way. And when the Browns put the ball in harm's way, it's because it's 3rd and long, and they throw the ball. So maybe till you get that figured out, you run the ball on 3rd and long, and you punt it. And you let everybody boo, and you play great defense, and you sneak a win out. Because what solves all issues in football is winning. Regardless if it's 2-0 or 30-0, a win is a win, and no one cares. And I've always believed in that. It doesn't matter. You'll figure it out the next week. It's like the NCAA dance, right? You survive in advance. Find a way to win, and then move on and improve the things you need to improve on.
Lance Reisland, as always, great stuff. Appreciate the time and the insight. Thanks very much, Lance.
As always, thanks for having me.
Lance Reisland, make sure you check him out. Always really good and insightful stuff for cleveland.com as well as the Plain Dealer. We're going to step aside, take a quick time out. We continue talking Browns. Pete Smith from the Orange and Brown Report. Straight ahead. Stay with us.
You got so much to do. It's got you feeling blue. Put a little play in your day. 'Cause it's fun all over the state. So come on. Great games wait for you and me. The Ohio Lottery. Put a little play in your day. Put a little play in your day.
We continue talking Browns on Sports4CLE. Let's head back to the voicemail of Truth and Reason.
Another Sunday, another lousy Browns game. Can we agree that as long as 40-plus-year-old Flacco stands in the pocket as a drawback passer 40-plus times a game, 30-plus times a game, the Browns offense isn't going to be successful? Their secondary gets torched by guys you've never heard of, coming in the previous year with 1 or 2 catches in their career, and they come in and light the Browns up. The defense can only hold up for so long. When is Stefanski going to realize that the running game is the best option? But instead, every possession out of every 4 downs, he's passing it 3, damn near 4 times every possession. You're not running the ball. So then you say, well, we couldn't establish the run. You didn't even try. Stefanski's not the smartest guy in the room. I wish he would stop trying to act like that. Man, I miss John Dorsey. At least he knew how to get talent in here. We don't get a receiver who couldn't catch a cold, man. Go Browns.
As always, appreciate all of the voicemails. Let's welcome in Pete Smith from the Orange and Brown Report. And Pete, I agree with you don't want Joe Flacco throwing the ball 40 times. The run game was better, but the offensive line still struggled.
Yeah, so look, I agree. You don't want any quarterback until the Browns find a real franchise quarterback dropping back 40 times a game. It's not really a recipe for success. I do think the running game was better. To me, the offensive line was neither the answer nor the problem in this game. I think they were just sort of there. I think your bigger issue was receivers being unable to separate and Joe Flacco making some poor decisions and those type of things. But if you're looking at the running game in general, I think you're starting to see it get on the right track, and that's not a satisfying answer, seeing as the Browns just got beat by 3 scores. But I do think we saw more from that group and that sort of aspect of the game than we did in the first game, and I wasn't sure we were going to get there. So from that standpoint, I actually do think there's some progress. It's just it needs to come a lot faster than we're getting right now.
Yeah, so the frustrating part, it's the first time in franchise history the Browns have actually outgained their first 2 opponents and are 0-2. Again, they had more yards gained than the Ravens. We'll get into all the reasons that wasn't the stat that we would want it to be. I know you wrote an article, performances, hopes, high hopes, limitations, and ongoing frustrations. Take us through that article relative to the Ravens game.
Yeah, I mean, look, the defense is outstanding in terms of the run defense. The Ravens ran for 45 yards. That's the lowest total Lamar Jackson and that offense have had since he's been the starter. For all the talk about, Grant Delpit saying it wasn't hard to tackle Derrick Henry, he was right. It was easy for the Browns to tackle Derrick Henry. And the thing is, like, you look at it and you sit there and you go, that's great. Why didn't the Browns win the game? And that's sort of where the Browns are at. You've got things like that happening. You've got a really impressive pass rush. You've got these rookies on both sides of the ball who are doing great things, and yet we sit here today talking about getting beat by 24. And that's sort of like what makes the Browns so frustrating right now, is that there are things you can point to where they are genuinely getting better and they're on the right track. And in some ways it doesn't matter because you have a punt block, because you have a fumble return for a touchdown, because you throw a ghastly interception, because you put your defense in bad situations, because you have 2 impact players, or what are supposed to be impact players in David Njoku and Jerry Jeudy, who aren't delivering the way this team needs to if the Browns are going to be successful. And you combine those into this big sort of stew of Browns football, and it's really frustrating to watch, because for one half of football, you're sitting there going, we're right in here, even though the offense was struggling, and that part was extremely frustrating. But you go into the half, you're down 7. You come out of that, and you ended up the game losing by 3 scores, and it feels like the Browns got blown out, even though that really wasn't the tail of the game. But, in as far as we can talk about, how much the Browns are sort of doing certain things really well, and there's all these things we can talk about that are really interesting, that's only going to go so far if they keep losing football games. And, people are eventually going to tune out when we're trying to talk about, oh man, Dylan Sampson and Harold Fannin are really good, and Quinshon Judkins looked really impressive in his first game, and Mason Graham was really good, and Schlesinger continues to look really strong, but they're 0 in whatever it is, or they're 1 in whatever it is. Like that, this program needs to find success on the field, one, to keep fans engaged, but also for the guys in the locker room to sort of continue to believe in what this thing's trying to do.
So 2 more turnovers and no takeaways. So the Browns are now -4. They don't have any turnovers created by the defense in 2 games. Joe Flacco talked about the turnovers in the offense.
When you want to go win games and move the chains and score touchdowns, then you have to play clean football and you have to make all those things work. At the same time, you're not going to play perfect, and those things are going to happen, and you got to overcome them. And I think in some respects we got to cut down on some of those things, and in other ways we got to do a better job of overcoming, because we understand that that's a part of the game and a part of what's going to happen every week. I do take some pride in throwing the ball away and just kind of living for the next down, and I didn't do it on that one. I saw kind of Dave turning up and just thought I had a chance there. I didn't think it would end in a pick. I thought if anything it would be incomplete. But yeah, it's one of those third downs. Listen, you got to play the game. You got to consistently make those right decisions. Even if you feel pressed to make something happen, you can't let that happen. So yeah, definitely want that one back.
Pete, there are times to go, to do that. That was not one of them, I didn't think. They're not explosive enough that they can overcome turnovers at this point. They're just not. The margin for winning for them is so tight that you have to win the turnover battle or at least push it.
Yeah, I mean, look, on the one hand, if the defense is going to be this good and get these stops so easily and continue to get the opponent off the field, like I can't sort of ding them for not getting turnovers. They did punch the ball out. They couldn't recover it. They're not getting picks to this point. Some of that is the way they play defense, but ultimately, hopefully, they're going to get to a point where those come in and sort of come in bunches to sort of balance things out. The problem you run into with the offense is, like, you contrast this to even when Baker Mayfield was a rookie for this team, and they would make mistakes and they would do things that you'd sit there and would be incredibly frustrating to watch. But they gave you this feeling that they could go back out there and make another play. And you had the same thing with Joe Flacco in 2023, being able to do that, because he made mistakes. They made turnovers, but they were able to respond and come back and make plays. So if they're going to make mistakes, they've got to find a way to make those plays, generate explosives. And again, this comes back to Jerry Jeudy and David Njoku, and if they've got to get more out of some of these other guys. They got one explosive out of Jerry Jeudy, one explosive out of David Njoku, and I think both of those led to points. They got one explosive out of Quinshon Judkins late in the game when it didn't matter. And ultimately, you can make mistakes so long as you create explosives. Otherwise, you're in a situation where you can't, and you have to not only do you run into a situation where you can't turn over the ball or make these mistakes like this, but you have to be perfect for 10 and 12 plays, or at least I should say mistake-free for that long. And that is really hard to do over the course of a game. And ultimately, you need to find a way to get easier points. And right now, that's not happened. We saw it happen both in 2023. We even saw it last year in glimpses with Jameis Winston when he came into the game and some of those things. Somehow they've got to find a way to get more of those. And some of that is, they've got to catch the ball better. They've got to do some of those things better. And some of that is the young players that they have need to grow up. And I don't say that negatively. It's just they are playing a whole lot of rookies on that side of the ball, and you're going to have some issues with that.
All right. Along those lines, Dylan Gabriel got in for mop-up work after the game was well decided. Longtime Browns beat reporter Tony Grossi talked about Joe Flacco and a potential quarterback change.
Are the Browns going to make a switch at quarterback this week?
I don't think this week. But listen, he's got to play better than that, okay? He's not going to... He's not going to last 6 games playing like that.
You think the Browns will stay with Flacco for this Sunday?
I do.
Against the Pack?
Yes.
Best team in football?
Yeah. You want to put a rookie who's never played?
Then when they look bad again, and when he looks old again, and the Packers win by 20, then what?
I think they're trying to stretch it out to 6 games. So is putting Dylan Gabriel in going to create?
Yeah, he's got a little more athleticism.
Well,
he's got his arm is okay. I want to see him. What do I have these guys on the roster for? I know what Flacco is.
I know. Listen, he's going to get in there, but
when
you got 15 more games,
Pete, I for the life of me can't understand the desire or we have to see what these guys have. The coaches know exactly what Dylan Gabriel and Shedeur Sanders need to work on in order to be adequate NFL quarterbacks. And clearly, they aren't there yet.
Yeah, I mean, look, Joe Flacco was not challenged in training camp. So that is the gulf that they have to sort of close. And 2 weeks isn't enough to get Dylan Gabriel or Shedeur Sanders where they need to be. I don't know what the timeline is in their head, though the 6 games make sense. That gets you theoretically to the Miami Dolphins on October 19th when the schedule gets significantly easier. But I can say this. The Green Bay Packers are phenomenal right now, and they're going to have 3 extra days to prepare for the Browns. I don't know how that ended up being the case, but yes, that is hardly ideal. Not only that, I just watched the Minnesota Vikings and Brian Flores' defense absolutely torturing teams. I don't want to throw a rookie quarterback into that situation in week 5. So that is what you're up against. And if you put in Dylan Gabriel and he's awful, and let's say he looks like DTR did against the Ravens in his first game, then what? Then you immediately decide, well, he can't play. We've got to move on to somebody else. And now we're already to Shedeur, and there's 4 months left in the season. Like that, one, you're undermining your message as far as the locker room goes, because at least with these other rookies, they have earned their ability to get on the field. You're trying to sell to these veterans like Joel Bitonio, Myles Garrett, and all these other guys that you are trying to win football games. You're not just trying to try stuff to see what certain guys look like. You want to give them some belief that you are trying to look out for their best interest, and just throwing Dylan Gabriel out there is not the answer. Again, to whatever development they need him to do in terms of his individual development is important. But the Joe Flacco point is right. He was bad. I relate it to 2023 against the Los Angeles Rams. That happened to be Joe Flacco's first start. He looked old in that game. He looked like he didn't want to be there at points. He bounced back. He needs to bounce back and be more effective, at least be a facilitator the way we saw in week 1. I would like to see him be more in terms of generating explosive plays, but he at least needs to allow these receivers and the running backs to look like NFL players, or at least have the opportunity to prove themselves in that capacity. And if either of these rookie quarterbacks goes in there and they struggle and you lose that part of it, that is going to do a significant amount of damage. But again, if we go through these 2 rookie quarterbacks and we decide in September that they can't play, then where are you at?
Yeah. Then you're waiting for the draft already, which doesn't come around until April. So we'll see. Pete Smith and I are going to step aside, take a quick time out. Other side of the break, back to the voicemail of Truth and Reason. We'll talk some more about the Browns rookies. Sports4CLE, be right back. Stay with us.
Come back to go forward. Back to learning new things. Back to pursuing your dreams. Tri-C has flexible learning options to fit your life. And every year, more than 1,000 local companies provide Tri-C students with real-world learning. The right education can boost your lifetime earning power by hundreds of thousands of dollars. Start now with a college education you can afford. Tri-C, where futures begin.
We continue talking Browns with Pete Smith from the Orange and Brown Report. Let's head back to the voicemail of Truth and Reason.
Hi, Dave. Howard from Marin County. Couple thoughts here. Number one, just like the last couple years, the Browns coaches were completely outcoached in the second half. The offense was horrendous. We definitely need much better personnel. The back end of the defense, we need a lot more guys that are good. We need a better line. And if it were me, I'd start Gabriel. Flacco is too old and slow. I think it'd be good to start Gabriel and give him experience this year and see what you have. I think it's a waste of time now to put Joe Flacco in any other game. Thanks a lot. Great show.
As always, appreciate all of the voicemails. Pete, the loss to the Bengals was bad. The Ravens are one of the best teams in the NFL. The Bengals lost Joe Burrow. They're 2-0. Ravens are 1-1. Steelers are 1-1. Browns are 0-2. It's not, in terms of time to move everything towards the future, not there yet. Back half of the defense, I know Ward was cramping up. That third cover guy has been a disaster. Cam Mitchell, Miles Harden, neither of them played really well.
Okay, Cam Mitchell drives me insane because he constantly seems to play leverages incorrectly. He doesn't seem to know where his help is, or he just seems to be on the wrong side of certain situations, and he gives up plays that he shouldn't. I really like Miles Harden. I know the play he gave up. I think that was on Ronnie Hickman not coming over the top. I feel like Miles Harden actually was supposed to be underneath inside leverage and was expecting help that he didn't get, so it made it look easy. Look, there is an element to this whole thing where, one, it surprised me that the Browns played as much man coverage as they did against the Ravens, because traditionally Lamar Jackson eliminates man coverage because he's so dynamic as a running threat, which is a credit to what the Browns have in their front, that they were willing to play that much man coverage, and Lamar Jackson had virtually no rushing impact. But what that also means is that after a while, you're not surprising them with what you're running. So he's going to figure this thing out, and eventually he found time. And part of that is just because Lamar Jackson is an absolute freak show in terms of his athleticism, his ability to extend plays, which, goes to your caller's point that makes Joe Flacco look even that much slower, that he's going against the most supreme athlete at the position in the game. But, in that sense, because the offense was so bad, that there comes a point where Lamar Jackson, given that much time, is inevitable. He's just too good given that many opportunities. But yeah, I mean, look, right now there are 32 teams who wish they had more corner help, and the Browns are in there. So I don't know how much time they're going to get there. I'm hoping, just from in what I've seen, that the Browns are going to sort of build and instill more trust in a Miles Harden. I like where that's going to go, and I'm curious to see how long it takes before, if you run into a situation where Ward is off the field, where they may start using the Jared Bernard Converse kid they claim from the Jets, because he's been more of a pure outside corner, if that's sort of the next move. Because right now, Cam Mitchell is just killing himself in terms of opportunities and what he's doing with those. He had the punch out on Derrick Henry, but in so many other situations, it was Cam Mitchell goes into the game, the Ravens immediately find him, and he gives up a score.
Yeah, and again, if I notice it, you're looking at those a little bit closely, and I just said, man, Mitchell got beat again. That was kind of my reaction to that. This is concerning. Browns are averaging an NFL low 2.4 yards per carry in the first half of their games, running the football. That's concerning. That's got to be a whole lot better. So you're in a lot of second and longs, which is another reason Joe Flacco may look old and slow.
Yeah, I mean, look, some of this is the Ravens basically just said, we're not letting Joe Flacco throw the ball down the field. We are going to drop our DBs back and force the Browns to work underneath, especially when you get into second and long, third and long, and we're just not going to let you beat us that way. And in that scenario, the Browns, one, didn't catch the ball very well. They didn't create separation very well. The Ravens loaded up on DBs on the field and basically said, you're not going to beat us this way. And the Browns were like, yeah, you're right. That is problematic. So to your point, the Browns rushing game has to get better. Again, I don't think the offensive line was necessarily the problem this week. I actually thought they were better. What you have to sort of look at is Quinshon Judkins and where this thing can go. He had one padded practice and then immediately thrown into the game, and honestly looked pretty good. Just from a size, speed element, he is completely different from everybody else on the roster. Obviously, he's enormous compared to Dylan Sampson, who's 5'8", 200 pounds. And then he's just so much more explosive and confident in his athletic ability compared to Jerome Ford. And from that standpoint, you immediately look at it and you go, I understand why the Browns thought this would be somebody to bet their offense around in terms of that. So now you have had him play significant reps. He generated the one explosive play, which in the grand scheme of things didn't matter in terms of the game, but was probably good. The Browns probably internally are thinking, yes, this is good, because it's going to sort of get him going and feeling like he's confident and heading into a better direction this week, particularly when you're going to be facing the Packers. It's going to be even that much more important for them to get the ground game going, to try to keep their pass rush at bay. So, yeah, I mean, this is the problem they're running into is you're allowing teams to, one, stop the run, and then just drop everybody back and say you're not going to beat us deep. And there's not a whole lot of plays they can call. They're going to fix that problem. And the Ravens did a significantly better job than the Cincinnati Bengals in terms of taking away plays to the flats, those little passes that they were able to make that sort of circumvented the lack of a running game. The Ravens took that away without issue. So that is where that offense sort of went to die. And even having said all that, they still outgained the Ravens, and it just comes down to the fact they need to do a better job of capitalizing on the opportunities they have.
Yeah, Judkins looked just, and again, it was 12 carries, something like that. He looked pretty patient, and he seemed to understand where the cutback lanes were. There's an innate part of that he seems to have. So I want to see more of him. I think I'm with you 100%. I see exactly why they would try to build Kevin Stefanski's run game around him.
Yeah, I mean, look, in terms of athleticism, he's absolutely one of the best. In the combine and everything else, he tested like a complete freak show in terms of agility and all these other things. I don't even know how good his vision is, but his athleticism is so good that he can make up for it with his change of direction, his explosion, and just his outright speed. So, yeah, I mean, look, I think in some ways, it was just a huge gut punch. And obviously, with the criminal investigation, the league investigation, if he did what he's accused of, so be it. He deserves whatever he gets. But if you're sitting there and you're punching enough holes in this case, you also have this little bit of part of you who says, I don't know really if it happened and if he was sort of lost all of this time for something he didn't actually do. There's this innate unfairness. Regardless of the circumstances, the Browns lost something by not having him all this time. And yes, they can get him back, and they got him in week 2, and he was able to sort of make an impact. But you can see the lag in terms of the offense and production and everything else that they might have if he was sort of full go the entire way. And now they're playing catch up.
All right, before we go to break, I know you wrote an article, kind of the problems that Fannin, Sampson, and Bond, some of the rookies, can cause defenses. Take us through that.
So, well, the Ravens did a much better job against this, but like the Harold Fannin is, when you have David Njoku, Harold Fannin is a huge problem. There aren't a whole lot of guys that can cover guys like him. He's able to get open. He's got pretty good body control. Again, 5 for 5 in terms of targets and receptions in this game. Dylan Sampson didn't play as much as I thought he would in this game. But again, you split him out wide, and he's short, but he's not small at 200 pounds. There aren't a whole lot of guys that can cover him. I thought the Browns might use more empty formations. They didn't really use it till the fourth quarter, which I'd be curious to know what the thought process with that was. Because in the past, they've done some of these things where they put these guys out there and force opponents to sort of decide how they're going to cover these guys and let the quarterback sort of pick them apart from that standpoint. And then the Isaiah Bond element, against the Bengals, they largely would set him up to one side, occasionally stacking receivers, and then motion him out further. And again, it forced the Bengals defense in that case to make a choice. Didn't do as much movement against the Ravens, but nevertheless put Isaiah Bond out there to force defenses to make a choice. Whether or not he is, a huge part of the offense in terms of production yet, when he runs down the field at his speed, somebody has to cover him. If that's a corner, if that's forcing safety help over the top, which wasn't a huge problem in this game because they were playing so far back, you still have to account for these guys. And if all of these guys can create issues, that theoretically creates more opportunities for Jerry Jeudy and David Njoku, or the inverse is also true, where if David Njoku and Jerry Jeudy are playing like the Browns need them to play and taking all this attention away from them, then everybody else seemingly should benefit. And that's ultimately when the Browns have been at their best, because Kevin Stefanski's offense, when it works best, it has never been forcing targets to a particular guy. It's always been taking what the defense gives you, just finding the open guys and letting them sort of generate production over the course of the game. Did not see that as much in the second game, but that is something that I think we're going to see if this offense gets right over the course of the season.
Pete Smith from the Orange and Brown Report and I are going to step aside, take a quick time out. Other side of the break, we'll hear from Myles Garrett, Sports4CLE. Be right back. Stay with us.
You got so much to do, it's got you feeling blue. Put a little play in your day, 'cause it's fun all over the state. So come on, great games wait for you and me.
From the Orange and Brown report, Miles Garrett, Brown's defensive end, talked about what he thought about their defensive performance against the Ravens.
Embarrassing. And we got to be better on defense. We got to be better as a team. They slowly chipped away. We did a solid job, holding it to 3 when we could, and then eventually, the dam broke, and then they just did whatever they wanted, and we have to continue to play a 60-minute game. I mean, at the end of the day, if they don't score, they don't win. We have to continue to hold them to 3 points or 0 points whenever we can, no matter if it's backed up, short field, red zone. We have to hold ourselves to that standard. And, we would love for them to put up 6 or 7 every time they touch the ball, but realistically, that's just not going to be the case. That's not going to happen on any team. So we got to make up for that whenever we can. We got to take the ball away, which we didn't do. I mean, if you look at time of possession, they didn't have the ball that often. Yeah, I feel like when they did, they had either 3 and outs, or there were a bit of longer drives, but I feel like they scored quick in the opportunities that they had. And I wouldn't say it was us being out there for too long. I feel like we were on the field for longer against Cincinnati. But when we're out there, we've got to make those plays.
Pete, what'd you think? I thought the defense played pretty well. I mean, there was the block punt, there was the scoop and score. The offense, it just isn't right. So, they held Derrick Henry in check. Lamar Jackson's Lamar Jackson. Here's the thing. They're playing Jordan Love and the Packers. That's going to be the easiest quarterback they've faced through the first 3 games. Think about that for a minute.
Yeah, I mean, look, you're going to compare the Browns defense against 2023, and that was historic. And part of the reason it was historic was because the Browns dominated a lot of quarterbacks who were not good, or they faced backups. So now they are playing really good defense, and this was my worry coming into the season, is the Browns defense would actually be better, but it wouldn't be necessarily reflected in the statistics because they're facing better players. Obviously they are accustomed to facing Joe Burrow and Lamar Jackson twice a year, but they're about to face Jordan Love and Jared Goff and some of these other quarterbacks and offenses that can do a lot more damage. And they can be great for a whole lot of the game and make one mistake, and that's all it takes. And unfortunately, they were really good for a lot of this. Now, Jim Schwartz is going to be upset with the red zone efficiency, although the one goal line stand was outstanding. They are getting incredible play from a defensive line, which is far more balanced than it ever has been. The linebacker play is really good. Devin Bush probably had his best game as a Brown. Carson Schlesinger continues to be good from that end. Grant Delpit was great. Bronny Hickman, I thought, had some missteps. Greg Newsome continues to be solid. I mean, at some point, when you play this much man coverage, when you can't get to the quarterback, which happened on some of these, he's eventually going to beat man coverage. It's just how this works. And that, unfortunately, that's where they're at. I don't know that they're ever going to have enough corners to just be able to cover forever in those circumstances. So when you get your opportunities, you have to make them count. That doesn't mean they aren't going to continue to strive to get better, but we can get, I can get annoyed at some of the things we're seeing and Cameron Mitchell and Ronnie Hickman mistakes and some of these other things. But this is not the reason the Browns are losing football games.
Yeah, without question. All right, before I let you go, we've mentioned Packers are up next. A lot of people think they are one of the best teams in the NFL. For the Browns to, pull the upset at home, what are some of the things that have to happen?
Yeah, I mean, they have to run the ball better because they have to be able to keep that pass rush and Micah Parsons at bay. They have to be able to find some explosive plays somewhere in the offense. I don't care where. They've got to be able to get easier points than they are getting, because right now everything is an absolute grind. And when they have gotten explosive plays, however few they have gotten, they've led to points. I mean, that's the trend for this team, is when they create explosive plays, they end up capitalizing on them. Defensively, look, the Packers are a challenge because they are so wide-ranging in the amount of weapons they have between Tucker Kraft at tight end and the amount of receivers they have. They put a lot of stress on you. So from that standpoint, Grant Delpit's got to continue to be great. because Tucker Kraft might be the best tight end no one really talks about outside of people who play fantasy. They have to be able to cover the vast array of receivers they have. And, given the corner depth questions, if you want to call them that allows Jordan Love to eventually find your weak spot if the pass rush isn't good. So from that standpoint, he's another athletic quarterback, but he has a bad tendency to sort of drop back and try to bet on his physicality. If the Browns can stop him back on some of these big, long plays, that could either result in either the Packers hemorrhaging yardage or hopefully resulting in a sack fumble that the Browns can pick up and get, if not score themselves, set up for points. And then the biggest thing the Browns have to do is not give away points on special teams. They, whatever else we talk about, the Browns have given away points either by not scoring in the first game against the Bengals or by straight up giving points away on special teams against the Ravens. And that is going to get you beat.
Pete Smith, Orange and Brown Report. As always, great stuff. Appreciate the time and the insight. Thanks very much, Pete.
Thanks for having me.
Pete Smith, make sure you check him out. Writes for the Orange and Brown Report. Always really good and insightful Browns coverage. That's going to do it for this edition of Sports for CLE. We'll see you back here tomorrow at 4 o'clock. Have a great night, everybody. See you tomorrow at 4 on Sports for CLE.